Excuse me, sir. Do you know what time it is? I'd like to know what the time is. Oh, I do hope I know what the time is.
Number you have dialed.
And now, somewhere in Cape Town, South Africa, it's #Beer Time.
Hey guys, you're listening to the Jack Black podcast. Now, this episode was recorded quite a while ago, so at the time, France was still working at Jack Black as the marketing guru, and we also had Jonas on the show. He is still the head brewer, if I'm correct. And we got to try quite a few of the beers, the Jack Black Lager, Sorghum Stout, Skeleton Coast IPA, and the Fresh Hop IPA. We even snuck in a sneaky Budweiser, and with that chatted about quite a few interesting things on how big beers are infiltrating South African markets, growlers, events at the brewery, and what they thought about sour beer. I'll just give you a quick heads up. The show does kind of end abruptly at the end. I think we lost some audio, but having said that, it's a great show. I hope you enjoy it. Ciao, ciao.
Whoa. Where are you? How's that for an intro? Jeepers, okay, Scooby-Doo. Let's turn Scooby-Doo down there, because it's not time for Scooby-Dooby-Doo. It's time for one thing and one thing only. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to #Beer Time with me, T-Bone Troy. 12 o'clock on a Tuesday. And it's time to drink some beer. And as always, we've got some very cool, very special guests in the studio. I'd like to welcome the gentlemen, the scholars from Jack Black Brewing Company France, the marketing guru, and Jonas, the head brewmaster. Guys, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, Troy.
Let's just test your speakers out there. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. It seems to always have technical issues at every show, so don't worry. But before we get into talking, chatting, yakety yak, start with the beer.
Awesome.
So I think it's only right that we start with a beer that started 10 years ago, the Jack Black Lager. Do you want to grab that? Do you want to crack it open? Oh.
Yes. You're going to open it.
We do actually have it open, believe it or not. Wait for it. This is going to freak you guys out.
Putting it out of his head.
Don't ask me why, but my earphones have a bottle opener.
Fantastic.
I don't know why or where that.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you can work that out. Oh, there we go. Oh yes. Okay, so I think you could, gentlemen, please help yourself. I think everyone's pretty familiar. Well, if you know craft beer in South Africa, you would have definitely heard of Jack Black Brewing Company. And if for those listeners on the show, you might have heard once or twice that I used to work for Jack Black. I was there for 2 years as a sales rep. And now we finally in the studio, we're going to drink it. Gents, cheers.
Cheers.
Ah, yes, please. Jonas, you're keeping very quiet there in the corner.
Yeah.
Say hello to. We've got literally thousands of women listening right now, so you need to put your best foot forward. No, but tell us, Jonas, before we get into who you are and where you fit in, but we want to know. I mean, Jack Black, and maybe France, you can step in here as well. But this lager has definitely evolved.
Yeah.
From the days of when it was brewed, I think it started at Birkenhead. Birkenhead, then moved to Boston out in
Baden Island.
It was there for a while. Sorry, let me turn that down. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 2 years ago that Jack Black moved to its own brewery?
Yeah, the project started a little bit before that, but yeah, around about 2 years ago, we've been brewing for how long, Jonas will answer how long we've actually been brewing.
I apologize. After Boston, it went to CBC for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And now it's finally been brewed. It's not a contract brew anymore. It's its own brew.
We got our own home and our own brewery, and it's fantastic. And like you mentioned, it's been an evolution, and it continues to grow and evolve and change as the times change and as we grow and change as a company too.
Okay, clear the throat. There we go. Jonas, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Like Franz mentioned already, we opened our own brewery, in Deep River. We did our first commission brew in December 2015, It's almost 2 years now, And what can we say? I mean, we have an amazing brewery. We have an amazing team over there, from marketing, logistic to our brewing team.
Marketing There's a good team there. Yeah.
Big team, but good team.
Everyone is proud of this, what we are doing, in the company. And I think we're also doing a right job right now. And
so for those of you listening, you can obviously notice that Jonas has a bit of a different accent. It's not Boxberg or anywhere local. It's German. But just tell us, Jonas, where you're from.
I moved 2 years ago to Cape Town. Originally, I'm coming from Germany, from the west of Germany, North Rhine-Westphalia, although it's a small village close by Dortmund.
Mm-hmm.
I did my apprenticeship as a brewer and maltster. After this, my master's school, and after the master's school, I moved to Cape Town to start with Jack Black on the amazing project to build their own brewery and build their own home.
Well, we'll talk definitely about what it involves to be a professional brewmaster, and I like that you said you did your brewing course and malting. So it kind of goes hand in hand to do your brewmaster's program and then a malting program. I think a lot of people and a lot of home brewers, or a lot of brewers in South Africa, don't really see malting as part of the process. But let's not get too carried away with brewing just yet. But let's get back to this beer. It's pretty much it's obviously Jack Black's flagship.
Yes.
Can I take it a step further and say it's probably one of South Africa's flagship craft beers?
I think we will try to be modest about it, but I think in terms of craft beer and us being a bit of a pioneer in the industry, this beer did really open up doors. We were kept on knocking at restaurants and bars and bottle stores to get craft and get craft recognized as something that people could actually afford and buy. And I think this beer was really the trailblazer for a lot of beers to follow, not just from ourselves and from our brand and brewery, but for other brands that came after us.
And sorry to interrupt, but that's the rumor has it that owner and founder Ross, he would literally go door to door to all the restaurants. He'll take a 6-pack of this Jack Black lager, and back then it was a craft beer. It was made in small batches, and I'm trying to think that it was just SAB dominated places. So he would just go, and the rumor has it that he would go to these bars and he'd sit down, he would open a Jack Black, and he would not leave until the barman or until the owner actually said, okay, cool, let's take a case, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think him and Megan, who started, he was kind of the face of the company when it just opened, and Megan running everything from their little apartment, and Ross driving around with cases of Jack Black between his knees on his little yellow puchi, which is, I think loads of people don't know all the background story. I mean, we can talk about that in a lot more detail, but it was literally a case of knocking on doors and turning one barman and one manager and one owner, and then getting them onto Jack Black and showing them the difference between a mass-produced product versus something that's done with a lot of heart and a lot of soul and a lot of passion.
Because I can imagine. I mean, back in the day, I think Birkenhead. I'm thumbsacking here, but it's 1,000 litre system. It can't be more than 3,000 litres.
No, I think it's about 1,000. Yeah,
maybe 1,500. But it was a small batch system, so you'd have X amount of beers, and that's what you'd need to sell. And so, I can imagine, taking yourself. I mean, for people listening, trying to take yourself back 10 years and imagining, just having SAB and Windhoek dominated, and I mean, I think Heineken was big back then as well. You know, those were your big players, and then all of a sudden comes this little guy, and it just, it starts a wave for not just the brewery, but just the whole movement. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the taste, about the beer,
Okay.
because that's what we do on the show. I must confess that when it first came out, I suppose I was like all South African beer drinkers. This was not my Amstel. This was not my light lager. It had a bit more unexpected flavor. It had body, and I think it's safe to say that maybe that happens still to this day, where you get first timers who drink in this Jack Black lager and they're like, whoa, this is actually not that similar. I mean, this might be a stretch now, but you could almost compare it to a good stepping stone from Windhoek, because Windhoek's also full-bodied. It's Reinheitsgebot.
Yeah.
There's just those 4 main ingredients: water, malt, yeast, hops. Sure, I had to think there. a little bit rusty.
Yeah.
So, I think this was a great stepping stone into the markets, but it's definitely evolved. I mean, would you still say it's a big player in South Africa?
I would say so. I can talk about the the romantic side of the beer in a lot more detail, but I would like actually Jonas, if he could explain to us why our lager might be a little bit more different than like you say some of the commercially available lagers.
That's actually a good thing. Maybe without giving too many secrets away, Jonas, you could tell us, for example, how many malts you put in. Not getting too technical, but maybe just explain what kind of recipe you work with here.
Okay,
Is it a lager? Is it American lager or what?
Yeah, this is American lager, okay, Prohibition lager, which means we looking for the malt body. The malt body, we focus completely on the malt body, okay, to get the sweetness, get the fullness from the malt character in the taste through. And, we're using 5 different malts, okay. And
could you let us know what those malts are? I mean, I'm sure some people would not have an absolute clue what we're talking about, but there are some people who are actually genuinely interested in what kind of malts go into a lager like this.
We're using pale malt as a base malt, okay. We're using Carahel as well as a specialty malt, which comes from Germany. We're using our Munich malt, also which comes from Germany as well, and acidulated malt to get our pH right, okay, for our brewing process. As you know, like the mash pH is one of the most important things during the brew process, okay. And we also played around with Pilsner malt, okay, which means we are also looking for improvement. Now I think what we also doing right now is we working with a small craft maltery here in Cape Town together. Okay,
Brilliant.
To create our own malt, to go again as a pioneer into the market, okay, to have our own malt, which we really can call Jack Black malt, okay. We did a couple test batches, okay. We still have to get the malt character right, okay. Like I said, it's malt forwarded, this beer, okay, which means our malt, which we're creating, our own Jack Black malt, must be 100%, okay. Obviously, the brewing process, okay, we're looking a lot for the malt body, which means we're looking for the beta amylase quite a lot, okay, doing the mash done, which means you have to make sure that your rests, okay, during the brewing process are that you adjust it, that you get the full rich malt body into your product at the end of the day. Which is for this product, okay, the mash tun is for me the most important thing in the brew house right now, okay, especially for the lager. Other ingredients, obviously.
Before you get into other ingredients, allow me to get a little bit geeky with our guests. Now, there's something that I've just recently, further my studying or further my knowledge in, and that is the pH balance of a mash. Now, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, part of the brewing process involves mashing, and that is where you crush your grain and you let the water soak or mix with it, and then what is left behind is a sticky, watery substance known as wort. But that mashing process, I've recently discovered how important it is in terms of the pH balance, your mineral contents.
Yes.
Now, do Jack Black, from what I remember, Jack Black gets, where do they get their water source?
We're using municipality water.
Okay, so do you treat the water? Because I noticed you said you use a specialty malt, acidic malt.
Yes.
So do you treat the water and add the malt, or is it just you just use the water as is?
Okay, what we're doing, the water here in Cape Town is actually quite good for beer brewing. Okay, we have soft water. Okay, we don't have huge water hardnesses. The only thing what we improving is a little bit our non-carbonate hardness. Okay, non-carbonate hardness. Make sure that our mashing gets better for the enzymes. Okay, and we working with brewing salts. Okay, to improve our non-carbonate hardness. Okay, doing in the Grispen, which is after the Reinheitsgebot. Okay. And of course.
Yeah, if anyone's going to stick to the German purity law, it's Jonas, the German brewmaster.
And but in all, we're using municipality water, and this water is good enough for our brewing. Okay, just to make sure that we're getting to the right pH. Okay, we're using acidic malt. Okay.
So, from what I understand, Cape Town water has a low calcium rate. I mean that all contributes to, as you said, enzymes and extracting the right. Did you say beta amylase and alpha amylase?
Yeah.
Again, not to get too geeky, but that's the certain type of proteins that are found in those crushed malts. So, okay. So I think that's the answer I wanted. I mean, you are treating your beers, you are treating your water, you are treating your mash to hit that efficiency. Basically, in a nutshell, for the people listening, you want to extract not necessarily the most amount of sugar, but you want to extract the most amount of the right sugars into your beer, which is in turn going to get the yeast to eat those sugars and to give off the right levels of CO2 and alcohol, and that's essentially what is part of the process of making a good beer.
Yeah.
Cool, I'm just testing my knowledge as well. Just recently got stuck back into a little homebrewing session with Greg and Carl from Beer Country and Ross Simmons, who was on the show a few weeks ago. So we're getting back into the brewing process. Cool. On with the show, ladies and gentlemen. I finished my beer. That went down a treat.
Always does.
It's what's the fear of having an empty glass? Cynosophilia or something
like
Latin.
that.
Yeah, let's just say I'm upset my glass is empty. Well, I feel like it's a good time to cut. We finished with this beer. Do we have any? We got a little bit there, but something which we can kickstart the show, or before we kickstart the next beer, I hope the lovely folk at Jack Black Brewing Company are listening.
They should be.
There's some wonderful staff there. So a quick shout out to all the hard workers at Jack Black Brewing Company. I think they should take the day off. No, I think just a shout out to all of them. It's always lekker working with a good bunch of people. Always cool. Dun dun dun, ladies and gentlemen, our second beer, and I've chosen this beer in this order for a few reasons, but this is a Jack Black show. But I do want to introduce a new player on the market. It's certainly no means a craft beer. by any stretch of the imagination. It's known as the king of beers. And I think when you're this, as a bigger company as these guys, you can call your beer whatever you want. But this is known as the king of beers. It is, ladies and gentlemen, the Budweiser king of beers, the light American lager from America, fresh off the ships, produced by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, brewed by our original process from the choicest hops, rice, and best barley malt. So there's no hiding there. The fact that they do use cheaper sugars like rice, or I wonder if they use any corn. Anyway, so guys, Budweiser, it's in our home.
Yeah, it's made the trip across the Atlantic.
Let's try it without looking at it too much. It's in a bottle, but it's not a bottle. It's a can shape.
Aluminum.
A bottle-shaped can. Yeah, aluminum. Okay. Let's try it. Let's see what all the fuss is about. I do have an extra can here, but I think we should be fine with just the one. Have you guys tried this before yet? Since it's
I haven't had it in South Africa before, so it'll be.
I had the Czech Republic one. That was fairly decent. Okay, guys. First thing I'm noticing is that it's really light in color. I know that you guys probably can't give your honest opinion. I'll give my honest opinion about this beer, but it's looking very light, so I'm already knowing what to expect. That's a bit of a sweet.
Yeah, you get a bit of a sweetness on the nose.
Hey?
Yeah.
Very little hops.
Look, if you're going for a clean, sessionable beer, then this is probably what you go for.
I was going to say, I think there's been a lot of harsh criticism against these big guys. And before I jump into it, we need to remember that 90% of the market is this. It's light lager. No matter where you are in the world, people are drinking this light lager. I do think this is a good beer because, or what makes it a good beer in that it is a very non-offensive, very, what's the word? Least offensive. It's not. It doesn't have a lot of hop character. It doesn't have a lot of malt character, and there are some people who want that. They don't want a beer that's going to keep them guessing, keep them thinking.
Well, like I said, 90% of beer market all over the world.
So it might not appeal to the common beer nerd like myself. It does taste. After having a Jack Black lager, it does taste very watery. I can't see myself enjoying one of these just because that's the type of person I am. I don't like light lagers. I like lagers that are a little bit more full body.
But I guess you need to, with every beer, you need to judge it on what it is, right?
Yeah.
If you're comparing apples and apples or apples and oranges, you need to, put this in its category where it belongs with the other 90/99% of beer in the world, and this is what people like and what people drink, and it's affordable, it's approachable, it's not offensive, it doesn't have any off flavors to put you off of it. But it's
Jonas, you're keeping very quiet there in the corner.
No.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this rice edition?
Okay.
It's not Reinheitsgebot.
Okay. It's different to the Jack Black Lager, obviously. Okay. It's also like Budweiser, and they doing huge volumes. Okay. For so many customers, and the drink.
What's I don't know, but maybe give me an idea. What's a huge volume? Jack Black's brewing capacity is a 3,000 liter system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that SAB Newlands have a 60,000 and an 80,000 liter system. So would this also be 100,000 liter brewing system, or?
Yeah, I would say.
If you don't know, I also don't know.
No, but I would say they're going close to the 1,000 hectoliter brewers. Okay, and
which is 100,000.
Yeah.
Liters, yeah.
I don't know exactly how the brewers looks like, but this will be a huge brewers around the 1,000 hectoliter system. And yearly capacity, they also will do like at least like 5 million to 10 million hectoliters per year. Okay. And what I have to say for this beer, I mean, the drinkability is there, okay, which makes this product worldwide successful at all, okay. It's like they're not looking for a specific flavor, okay. They're looking for the for a beer for everyone,
yeah.
you know. And I mean, this is obviously the success from Budweiser, okay, and. It's not a bad beer, you just have to be the type of person to drink it, okay? And for me, it's also a little bit too light, okay? But this is also just a personal opinion. I mean, yeah.
I remember 2010, when the World Cup was here. This was the only beer you could get in the stadiums. And I think it was also for like something ridiculous, like a kilometer radius around the stadium. It had a very bad rap. It had a very negative association with the World Cup. I mean, unless you are someone who really enjoyed it at the World Cup, I just remember ordering these beers. It was Budweiser only, and I was just thinking, I can't believe I'm drinking this beer. It's not enjoyable. It's not. Why am I drinking it? It tastes like nothing. So that's my opinion. But I know that some other people might also share that opinion, and that it had some sort of a negative image through the World Cup. So, Frans, maybe we can talk a little bit about the marketing aspects. I'm sure AB InBev, SAB, they know about this. They know that there's maybe a little bit of a negative rap from the World Cup. Maybe there's a negative rap from this giant beer entering the South African markets to take over the industry. So, from a marketing aspect, you know, besides throwing money at it, what else do you foresee them doing?
Look, Budweiser is such a intrinsic American brand. It's got so much heritage. I mean, if you look at that Budweiser label, it just screams America. I think they even did a bottle range last year or the year before that actually changed the name Budweiser to America. That's how American Budweiser is.
I saw that, yes.
Yeah, so for them to enter a market like us, 2010 with the World Cup, and that's the only beer you can get, you know, South Africans are, but like, you know, we have our own really good commercially made beer. Why do we need, you know, some American beer? And they did the same in Brazil with the same thing with the World Cup, also just Budweiser, and people were quite angry about that. But I think big companies like this, because they've got such a global reach and they've got so many different brands, it's kind of hard for them to adapt. And you know, how do you explain your message or your heritage to a country that's never even heard of your brand before? You just slap it in their face and expect people to accept it and drink it. So it's going to be challenging for these guys, especially now because they bought SAB, and you know, there's some changes in their company structures and stuff. So for them to enter our market and potentially the rest of Africa as well, it's going to be challenging.
I was just about to lead with that. As you were saying that, I just realized that we must think that, you know, South Africa is probably, what I would imagine, probably not their primary objective.
No, it's the rest of Africa.
They want to start in South Africa because we've got such a good base with Africa, and then work their way up. So if they fail in South Africa, which I will go on the line and saying I don't see them doing very well in South Africa, Budweiser, that's okay. They're gonna try and penetrate the rest of Africa, because that's where the untapped market is.
I don't think they necessarily want to lead with Budweiser and maybe Bud Light as their premium products, just flooding the market with that product. They obviously push for it and gain a bit of a global reach with Budweiser specifically. But in buying SAB, they bought so many other brands and breweries that already fall under SAB's wings. So I think the idea for them is to expand on those and you know, really focus on growing those brands rather than maybe pushing American brands onto an African consumer which might not be willing or ready to accept that brand.
Look, if they push some Goose Island on me, I'm all for it.
They can push Goose Island any way they want to.
They can bring over as much as they want. For those of you who don't know, Goose Island, I think, was one of the first craft breweries acquired by AB InBev I'm thumbsucking, but it was a few years ago.
Well, they also got Devil's Backbone and Golden Road out in Los Angeles.
Wicked Weed is one of my ones that I want to try from Carolina.
They own quite a few craft breweries.
If they bring those over, I'm going to paint my room AB InBev colors. No, but so yeah, it's I like what you said there about the whole marketing aspects. But yeah, I think we are gonna start seeing a what's the word, a cash drop in terms of
for sure.
big sponsorships.
Yeah.
And we've already started seeing it in the retail, in restaurants where, you know, if you're a restaurant owner, and it could be Budweiser, it could be a wine company or anyone, and they say, look, we're going to give you 100,000 rand to put up a sign, to sell our beer, maybe do some awnings. Here's 100,000 rand.
Yeah.
Please. And as a restaurant owner, you're like, okay. So it's very hard not to say no.
It's a very enticing deal for someone who is a small business owner, whether it's a restaurant or a bar or pub or whatever. I mean, that's a great way for you to make money, but it's interesting. They obviously they play in quite a different league than we do. If we can use the American analogy of baseball leagues, you know, we definitely in the little league / minor leagues, where they definitely up in the higher classes of the Major League and World Series. You know, we would never be any craft brewer really be the sole sponsor of a soccer World Cup. You know, that's just money that's something we'll never achieve. But that's not what we want to. We don't want to play in the same field, but we are. So we need to be creative and strategic on how we approach things.
I'm wondering if Budweiser is going to have a similar market reaction like Miller's. I think Miller's went through a bit of a phase that was like cool and hip and trendy, but I mean, do you see Miller's nowadays? You don't. It's MGD. So if I had to be a fortune teller, I'd say that I don't think Budweiser is going to do too well. It's an American beer entering the South, very strong.
People in South Africa are loyal, brand loyal, like crazy. Yeah.
And I mean, if you gave me a Budweiser or a Castle Lights, I'm going to go for the Castle Lights. I suppose it is. It's
owned by the same company now.
But it is. But it's a heritage thing. It's a pride thing. You know, you want to support local. But anyway, with this, it's going to be a very interesting year. It's going to be a very interesting summer, because I know that the summer is literally just going to be Budweiser everywhere. I've heard from SAB guys.
Look, it's always nice to have new beers in the market and beers that South Africans might not have tasted before. That's always a good thing. And hopefully, with all the money that AB InBev are bringing towards the SAB party, they're gonna invest in their hop farms, invest in their malt farms, create some more jobs, which is something that they could realistically do, and that will just be better for the whole industry in South Africa as a whole. So there's definitely positives to take out of what they can bring to the party, but it is challenging competing on a face-to-face basis.
I thought I was going to close, but I just remembered something else now. I mean, there is a fear that there is going to be a bit of a retail fight, a cat fight, in terms of, we spoke about the restaurant industry, but the bar shops, the bottle shops. That's English, Troy. The bottle shops. There's going to be a fight for retail space, and I honestly don't see it being that ridiculous. Like, you get some people saying, where can we put our beers? But let's say Budweiser goes in and says, no, I want to buy the whole shelf for X amount. And as a shop owner, cool, go for it. But you're still going to have that interest in craft beer. You're still going to have your one shelf, your one fridge. And if that interest is growing, and if there's more and more craft beers entering the markets that are local, that are interesting, I don't see this tidal wave of dominance in retail space happening. Or maybe you can
Look, it's going to be interesting for them. Like I said, with Miller's years ago entering the market, they were like peaked and then they plateaued and then they kind of disappeared, even though they're still hanging around. And I think with Budweiser, if they really want to push Budweiser, the brand, they're going to be losing market share on brands that they already own, like Castle Light, Black Label. Those are the brands that they're going to be competing against.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily competing against us or other craft beers which are on a different price market and a different fridge on a different shelf and a different side of the liquor shop. So it is going to be interesting to see how they approach this.
Yeah, it's if anything, they would cannibalize their own markets. But yeah, as you said, and you put it perfectly. Why would a consumer choose a Budweiser over a Jack Black? Or it doesn't have to be Jack Black. It can be CBC. It can be Darling. Why? It's just a totally different market. So let's hope the consumer speaks out, and if the consumer wants craft beer, then it's which I do believe they do.
Yeah,
I do believe they want.
I mean, if you look at most liquor stores 5 years ago, you would struggle to find a craft section. You might find one or two brands, but now you'll struggle not to find a liquor store that has at least a shelf or a fridge dedicated just to craft beers, which is already a win for us as an industry. Not one brand in particular, but like people are asking for it, and those are the people who won't just drink Jack Black or Darling or some of the other brands. They'll experiment and then they'll come back to the ones that they like. But they already kind of made that choice that I'm not going to support the big guys. I'm going to go for locally made beers that I believe in. And those are the people that we want buying our beers, not necessarily people just looking for the cheapest quick fix or the latest, greatest thing. You know, we want people that enjoy our beers for the beers and the story behind it.
No, I completely agree. Let's segue. Let's go to a little bit of a music break because I think we've spoken at length. Before we crack open another beer, we can play some music. And I think what's important to know is that I think the relationship between the consumer and the craft brewers and SAB, it's still, I like to imagine it's still one big happy family where everyone's kind of supporting and growing each other. You might disagree for those of you listening at home, but I like to think that there's still positive vibes. I think love is in the air, guys. Hey, wouldn't you say? I think so, hey? And we're back. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is #beer time, where I suppose we drink beer. If you'd like to summarize the show. And today we are doing that. We are drinking Jack Black Brewing Co. The latest beers from Jack Black Brewing Co. We also just had a little infiltration beer from America, the Budweiser. I think the Czechs say Budweiser. Americans say Budweiser. Yeah, I digress. We're in the studio with Frans and Jonas. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thanks.
Jonas, you've got an odd-shaped bottle there. What is that, and what's inside?
Okay, this was our latest project. Okay, we did a limited release as a sorghum stout. Okay,
A sorghum stout.
Exactly. We used traditional South African grain in it. Okay, which is quite difficult to brew this. Okay. Because you have to find out your perfect amount, okay? Because the sorghum makes your beer to acidic taste.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, we planned stout for it, okay? And just to make sure that your stout is not getting too acidic, okay, you have to find out and have to recalculate your amount of sorghum which you're putting in, okay. And I think we found a good amount of sorghum, okay. We're working with 7% of sorghum in this beer.
Sure, Frans, thank you. That looks delicious.
And yeah.
So what? Let's say you put in. I'm just choosing a number.
Yeah.
Let's say you put in 50% of your mash bowl. Say it's 50% sorghum. What would happen?
Okay. It would happen at first. First of all, it's also
because I think maybe I tried to make a local beer, a local African beer. It wasn't 100% sorghum, but it was a mixture of things. And my batch came out. It smelled horrific, but it was sticky like porridge and oats, and it just wasn't what you would call appealing in terms of a beer. So what's the danger of putting 50% sorghum?
Okay, first of all, you have to choose your right sorghum variety. Okay, you have more than 10,000 different sorghum varieties. Okay, and you also have different
10,000 different types of sorghum varieties.
Yeah,
and is sorghum native to Africa, or is it found around the world?
No, around the world. Okay,
good Lord.
And most important thing is also the color of your sorghum. Okay, it goes like from pinkish to a caramel white color. Okay, and this color is telling you also how much polyphenols are into your sorghum. Okay, which is quite important for your beer, and in the end of the day for your taste then as well. Okay, and we choose a sorghum variety with a very low polyphenol amount. Okay, and to make sure that that the taste gets smooth. Okay, it gets not too harsh, not too acidic. Okay, not too bitter, which is also, in a stout beer. Okay?
That is a problem in South African beers, I think.
Yeah,
stouts being too bitter. From a judging perspective, I found that South African beers are a little bit maybe too bitter.
Yeah, and it's also like, okay, if you're working with sorghum and if you're also working then with rusty malts, okay, your rusty malts brings also like the rustiness, the bitterness from the grain side, okay. And if you have then too many IBUs, the possibility is there that your beer gets at the end of the day too bitter. Okay?
What do you mean when you say IBUs?
Okay, IBU stands for International Bitter Units. Okay, this is just the amount of alpha acid, iso-alpha acid.
And it can be in any beer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is just to give you an idea how bitter it is, okay? And we are working for our stout with 20 IBUs, okay?
So is that a 20 as a percentage, 20 out of 100, or is it a scale? Where does it start? It starts at 0?
Yeah, it starts with 0, and during the brewing process, okay, you have a conversion into your wort kettle, okay? You're adding your hops, okay, and you convert your alpha acids into iso-alpha acids, and the iso-alpha acids are giving you the bitter units, okay? And you work this out for your recipe, okay, to, for example, if you're creating a lager, you're talking about between 18 and 25 IBUs, okay, if you want to produce...
So we could say a low bitterness.
Exactly, yeah. If you're looking for IPA, okay, it comes from 45 IBUs up to 100 IBUs.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So when people get that heavy, hoppy, bitter note in a beer, that's a high IBU.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool. And you say that this stout has got a 20, so it's similar to the lager range, but...
Yeah, but you have to be careful, like I mentioned. Like we're working with rust malts as well, okay, to get our dark color in our product. And the rust malt is also giving you a slightly bitterness which comes from the husks. Which means you have to make sure that you're not putting too much IBUs into your into the wort kettle or into the beer, okay? Because otherwise your beer gets too bitter and it's
unpleasant.
not,
Well, I do want to say the first thing I noticed when you pour this is it's got a beautiful color. I mean, it's like a dark brown, almost purple kind of color going to it. So let's. After all that talking, I think we need to give Bruce a sniff. It's got definitely like a sweet, chocolatey kind of syrup taste. The smell, the type that you put on your Milky Lane ice cream. So I'm definitely getting that chocolate. A little sip. Ooh. Does it have a bit of like, it's got a nice, very small hints of like coffee, almost a bit of smokiness, but not bad.
Yeah, slightly chocolate flavor, which is also coming through. Like I said, if you also get in the middle of the taste a little bit of a acidic taste, okay, which is coming from the sorghum, and the sorghum is also bringing you like the fullness of this beer. Okay, the malt body is rich. Okay, it's you have a.
It's not a. It's obviously not a Guinness stout. You know, a Guinness stout. When you think of that, it's the carbonation is low, but it's still a very thick and rich beer. This is obviously not Guinness, and it's not. The point I'm trying to make is that it's a totally different type of stout.
Yeah.
And I think the people listening out there is that you can get a few different stouts. If my memory serves me correct, France, you might have to correct me there, but 4 different types of stouts. There's a foreign stout, there's an extra stout, there's an Irish stout.
Export stout, dry stout, sweet stout.
There we go. Okay.
Milk stout.
Yeah, there we go. So,
Oatmeal stout.
so you've got all these different types of stouts. You even get a blonde stout. That's the new thing now, where there's no dark malts. But anyway, I digress. So there's lots of different stouts out there. This stout that you've made is delicious. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's part of something that we're quite passionate about at Jack Black, is trying to incorporate local ideas and local inspiration into our products, whether that's with hops, malts, water, yeast even. Sorghum is such a traditional ingredient in loads of locally made beers for generations and across various cultures. And we want to make it contemporary and take those ideas and inspiration into stuff that we are looking into. So it's quite cool for us to produce a beer with a German brewmaster using such a traditional African ingredient, which you would never find in a German beer. I suppose.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not easy to make. But yeah, hats off to you guys for incorporating something African into the beer. I think. That's the one thing I would like to see from the local industry, is that you've got these craft brewers who kind of just following, a carbon copy of American beers. Let's start experimenting with South African ingredients. Let's find a Cape Pale Ale. I know you guys got one, but let's find something that's unique to South Africa. Sorghum. Maybe sorghum is the answer. But
I mean, this like Jonas mentioned, it's a small batch. It's a part of our research and development program that we have at the brewery, where every couple of months or every other month really we have a new different beer that we're experimenting with that you can only get on tap at the brewery. This one is still, we've got a couple of kegs left, so you can come down and fill your growler bottle with it.
So I see you've got a growler bottle. Now, for the people listening at home, or on their podcast, or around the world, as you do here on Two Oceans Vibe Radio, what's a growler? I see it's got refillable. Why is it 1.89 liters?
So this shape in particular is quite a popular growler shaped bottle in America, like where all the trends kind of start. It's 64 fluid ounces, which in our metric system relates to 1.89 liters. So it's just under 4 pint glasses, really. If you go to the bar, it'll be about four glasses will fit in there. And yeah, the idea is for people to come down with this bottle that's refillable. So you fill it with whatever beer we have on tap that you really like. You take it home and you crack it open on the weekend, and you have really fresh beer in a big container that you can drink yourself or share with your friends. And then wash it, bring it back, and fill it with something else, so that you'll always be able to get the freshest beer and enjoy it at your home, or at the braai, or on top of a mountain, or the camping trip, or wherever you are.
That's obviously a very it's a very American thing, because I think in America it's a very established market, and you've got those small local breweries, and you've got the tight-knit communities that go and support that brewery. So.
Yeah. We've been fortunate.
We want to see more of this, is what I'm trying to say.
We've been really fortunate. Our Deep River community has really accepted us with open arms. And if you spend some time at the brewery and the tap room, especially on a Friday, kind of after work time, you'll see loads of people walking with their growlers, filling it up for the weekend and going home. And a Saturday during the day as well, we've got people walking in from, whether it's ladies, whether it's older gentlemen, it doesn't matter. People come in with a growler, they fill it up, and they've got their fresh Jack Black to enjoy at home, which is fantastic. It's so cool to see that kind of idea and culture of grabbing fresh beer from the brewery catching on so quickly. We've been very lucky that this is caught on so quickly. But it's a cool concept. But I think people in South Africa at least have a bit of a historical connection. Maybe their parents went to the grocer to fill up the glass bottle with fresh milk or juice or something. And this is kind of the same.
Butcher, yeah,
this is kind of the same thing that we want to incorporate. So if you want to get your fresh beer, you go to the brewery and you get it, and then you go home and buy other groceries.
It is a very cool concept, and that's actually a nice way to kind of segue into visits in the brewery. Into you mentioned you guys have certain events. I just can't believe how busy you guys get. You've obviously tapped into a market. I remember when we moved there, when Jack Black moved there, it was considered we said lower Constantia, or But there is a massive southern suburbs vacancy, or there was a vacancy there where people were sick and tired of having to drive to town or to somewhere else, Woodstock, where all the breweries were. All of a sudden, this Jack Black brewery comes up, and they've got this massive hall, this entertainment area, beer taps. You guys have definitely established yourselves as a destination brewery. Maybe you can tell us about the kind of events that you guys have had that have been successful. And I know that you've got some events coming up in the next few days and weeks.
Yeah, so we've, like I said, been super fortunate that the community has really accepted us, and people do travel from other areas like Muizenberg and Kalk Bay and Kommetjie and Constantia, Plumstead, Wynberg, all of those areas that surround us. People do travel, and it's a lot closer for them to go somewhere where you can see some live music, eat some great food, have some awesome beers at a really reasonable price, without having to go into town to find it. And we're not a late night open bar and people get carried away. We cater for a certain market. We close at 10, but you could have an extremely great time having some beers with friends. Like I said, we're very conscious about the price and the offering that we offer to people, and we're continuously working to make it better and keep it exciting and interesting for people to come back. That's why we have loads of events. We've hosted
Food Truck Friday. What is that? Where did that start?
So Food Truck Friday is something I guess we started it out of necessity.
You guys are always busy, and I just can't believe it.
It's crazy. Yeah, people just really
queues out the door, and people can't get in.
It's fantastic that people are so open to this concept where we actually close our own kitchen, and our kitchen staff love it. They get to have the last Friday of every month. They get to party with us and don't have to work. So we get 2 food trucks in to park in our courtyard. They take care of all the food, and we get different trucks in every event. We also double up on the band, so we get 2 local bands in to play in the courtyard area. So it is definitely a fun, family-friendly market kind of vibe. So it does really cater for everybody. We also just don't have beer on tap. We've got some craft sodas made by a local guy using some organic and natural materials to make his soda. We've got the alcohol-free and sugar-free.
Gotta have your organic.
Yeah, you gotta have.
There's a market.
There's a market. So, and we've got some wines available from the Constantia Valley, which we like to think we're part of.
Yeah.
So we do cater for a variety of people. It's not just a brewery that's just about beer. We're about having an experience at Jack Black, and we're so proud to be able to invite people to come and party at our house. That's
exactly.
Kind of how we see it. And this week, again, Payday Friday. It's
I was just going to say, this is the last Friday coming up.
Food Truck Friday on this Friday. We've got 2 amazing trucks coming in. One of my favorite bands, Stone Jets, they're playing on stage. So it's going to be a good party this Friday.
That's awesome. You guys will obviously double down on the community and the entertainments. And what I like also about Jack Black, it's not just a brewery. It's an image. There's a brand behind it. There's, Ross has always liked surfing. He's always liked, from the design of the bottles. very cool local craft aspects, small community aspects.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes Jack Black so successful. You get a lot of breweries out there who just, as I said, just copy someone. They don't have an identity or something that they can personally relate to. They try and just start something and think it'll be a good idea, a good money maker, but they fall flat because there's no passion behind it. So it's great to see a company like Jack Black making good beer and involve in the community, get in bands, get in food trucks. Getting hungry now. What other events do you guys have coming up that we should know about?
We even try and get different genres of music. So we've got a jazz night on Thursday, which is very popular. Everybody loves a bit of jazz, and we get a different kind of crowd in for that. We've got a rotating every second week. On a Thursday night, we've got quiz nights, which people seem to love. We're always fully booked, so you have to get your bookings in quickly. We've got some great prizes, very awesome people hosting the quiz nights for us. So we try and keep it fresh, and we have different events for different people. Some are a bit more upmarket, like we did a big oyster feast where we introduced the stout, which really pairs well with oysters. So that was a kind of a different crowd. And then you got the food truck Fridays, and then we have beer festivals that we invite some of the smaller local guys that we all friends with outside of work. And we just all have a party together.
I think I was there. It's very hazy, but I think I was there. No, I was there for IPA Day.
Yeah.
I had a few of those beers. But yeah, it's good to see also that you guys are incorporating the other smaller guys, which is cool. We're growing the community, growing the pie, getting more people to love beer.
There's a
Win-win.
saying from old what's his name? Jim Cook, who owns Sam Adams Boston Brewing Company, which is one of the biggest players for craft beer in the world, not just in America. And he's always saying that a rising tide floats all boats, and that's kind of how we see it as well. So if we support local craft, local people will support them, and in turn they support us, and it's a growing community, and it's not a just go out, spend money, create a brand, make as much as you can, and get out of it kind of game for it. It's a long haul thing, and we want to build on it little by little.
That's what I admire about the company as well, and also about Ross, and that's he wants to create a legacy. He wants to leave something behind, and yeah, it's good to see someone that's to me is true craft. You're not just going to start a company and then sell it when AB InBev comes knocking on the door.
Even though we're growing and we're so fortunate to be able to invest in equipment and amazing brewing team and admin staff and accounting and all the things that you need to run a business, we still, as we grow, we're not making all this money. We're just putting all of it back to make sure that we get the best beer out to everybody. And that's what it's all about, and that's what we want to keep on doing.
Cool. I think that's a good place to take a little music break. I think we're going to dedicate this next song to the wonderful staff at Jack Black, because I know that they're listening. So for those of you listening at Jack Black, thanks for all the hard work. The song is for you. Yes, you are better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, touch yourself. It's Two Oceans Vibe Radio. And this is #beer time. And I don't feel like dancing. Now I feel like dancing. I really do feel like dancing. We're having some great beers on the show. If you've just joined us, shame on you. But we are talking to the gentleman from Jack Black's Brewing Company, France, marketing genius, and Jonas Wonder Kid, brewmaster. Jack Black's. Just set the record straight there, France. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the actor.
No, absolutely nothing to do with the actor. Cool coincidence.
His name's not even Jack Black. That's his acting name.
Exactly.
So where's Jack Black from?
Jack Black's inspired by an American called John Jack Black, who was a brewer in the pre-Prohibition era. He made some old malt lagers, which is the style that became our flagship beer. And he was quite an interesting character, bit of a maverick, bit of a pioneer himself. When the Prohibition hit America, he moved from New York across the river to Canada to brew his beer and smuggle it into speakeasies and saloons. With the mobsters, that was all illegal. But he had like a passion for making great beer, and nothing was going to get in the way of getting the beer to the people. And that's kind of what Jack Black is also about. Maybe not the illegal part of it, but at least the passion to make sure that you get the best quality beer and make it accessible to everybody.
And that's again, my knowledge is rusty, but that was in the 20s, 1920s, 23 to
early
it lasted
1920s.
7 years or so, but that's 100 years ago almost. And again, I mean, that the American market back then, that was when those small breweries were just start picking up. Now, this is a bit of a nightmare, but can you imagine some prohibition happening in South Africa, like in the next few years? That would be an absolute disaster. But it needs to be something to think about, because it would happen to the cigarette industry, and I know that with the advertising and the liquor laws coming into place, I'm hoping we don't have a prohibition, but let's anyway, we're digressing.
Yeah,
let's cross that bridge when we get there.
Let's hope we never have to cross that bridge, because it's going to be quite tricky.
Yeah, let's not do that. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a great show. We've tried the Jack Black Brewers Lager. We then moved on to the King of Beers, inverted commas, Budweiser from the States. And then we had this beautiful Sorghum Stout. Just remind me, that's a limited batch. It's only a few more kegs at the brewery. You can only get it at the brewery.
You can only get it on tap at the brewery.
And this delicious growler that's been left behind for me, I won't have any now. I'll save some for later.
That's the little thing about the growler. You can drink some, put the cap on, drink some again later, and it's still nice and fresh.
I'm very excited about it. Jonas, what you got there? Open that bad boy.
Okay, what we're having now is Skeleton Coast. This is our IPA. Okay,
So, am I correct in saying that the majority of Jack Black beer is American style? They follow the American kind of recipes. For example, this is a West Coast.
I would say majority of our beers are inspired by some of the trends and some of the styles that American craft brewers are doing, but we like to put our interpretation and our spin on it, and not just use all American hops and all American ingredients. So Jonas can tell you more about what makes this Skeleton Coast.
Yes, that's a good point to pivot on, Jonas. The hops that go into this beer. Can you maybe just tell us a little bit about the Jack Black IPA? Why is it different from other South African IPAs, and what kind of hops you put in?
We having a cold infusion for our India Pale Ale, okay, which means our bitterness is getting in our wort kettle, okay. Also, we're getting a aroma bitterness in the wort kettle, but the special for our IPA, we dry hop our IPA, okay, which means by cold temperatures, just around the fermentation temperature, in the end of the fermentation, we're adding our hop pellets into the fermentation tank. And we extract our hop oils, okay, which gives you the fruitiness, the fruity flavor, which are coming through, okay. And this is a really, really bitter beer, okay, but you're getting all the fruity notes from the hop oils, okay. And this makes it quite interesting. You're getting peach, citra, fruity flavors through, okay. You're getting also like a slightly nutty flavor from the malt body, okay. But all in all, we put more focus for the hop side, okay, for the bittering, for the flavor which is coming from the dry hop extraction.
Okay, so for the people listening at home, I mean, you're just basically adding a shit ton of hops, yeah, and obviously there's a bit more science behind that, but you are making a beer as you would during the boiling process, and then it goes into fermentation tanks, and it doesn't stop there. You just add in more hops after that primary fermentation, and what that does, if I'm getting this correct, you just add in those hop oils that they only contribute the aroma. There's no bitterness that comes from adding all those hops. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. What we're doing, okay, we also worked with a local guy, okay, with a local engineer to make our dry hopping more and more efficient, okay, which means we built our own little hop gun, okay, which make it safer and better.
A hop gun.
Hop gun, yeah.
Sounds pretty cool.
This is actually just like a small tank, okay, which you're adding your hops in. Okay, and then you start with a circulation with a pump, okay, and circulate your beer from the tank through the smaller tank, okay. And with this circulation, you extract all your hop oils, okay, because this is a most important thing during the dry hopping, okay. Extract all your hop oils for a certain time, and from this hop oils, you're getting all the fruity flavor into your product, which you want. And it was also a nice project because, like I said, we worked with a local engineer together, okay, to create this kind of hop gun, okay, which means we didn't buy it from overseas or whatever, okay. We also kept it local, and also like from the hop side, okay, we're also trying to keep as many local hops into our product as we can. Okay, obviously we're also using German and American hops into this product, into the Skeleton Coast.
How many types of hops?
In total. For dry.
Are you allowed to tell me?
No, I am allowed to tell you. We're using for our dry hopping. Wait, let me think about 4 different hops. Okay,
just dry hopping. You're using 4.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, for those of you who even know what dry hopping is and who've brewed their own beer, we tend to just do one type of hop, but you're using up to 4. Okay.
Yeah. And we're keeping this 2 local hops and 2 American hops for our dry hopping. Okay, for our bittering and aroma, which we're getting in the wort kettle, we're using 3 American hops, okay, and 2 local hops as well. And then we're also having a Whirlpool edition in our
cheapers. Okay, so you've got
we're using a lot of hops. Yeah.
So you've got, if my maths serves me correct, you've got 10 different points at which you add hops, or 10 different types of hops or additions. So that's quite intense. And I can say it's definitely shown through in the beer, and that this is a delicious beer.
Yeah.
It's changed as well.
Yes.
From the first one, it's not as sweet and malty.
No, we changed a little bit to the West Coast IPA, okay, and the West Coast IPA, it's more hop forward IPA, okay, and we really focus for the hop flavor, okay. Obviously, the malt character is also important, okay, to get a combination between malt and hops, but for the fruity flavor, okay, that we get a rich fruity flavor profile into our product, we looked quite a lot for our dry hopping, okay, and improved our dry hopping, a lot.
Cool. Franz, over to you. Yes.
Yeah, I think another point to make is people tend to see our lager and our Skeleton Coast maybe next to each other on the shelf, and there's quite a difference in price. And I think you touched on it. There's about 10 different points where we add loads of different hops.
For sure.
And hops tend to be one of the most expensive ingredients that go into beer. So I think it's all about education and educating the market. So, if you have an IPA like ours, for instance, and I'm sure loads of other great local IPAs follow the same route, there's a lot of care and a lot of craft and a lot of skill that goes into making sure you get the best flavors out of those hops, which are pretty much the most expensive ingredient in the beer. So obviously the price will be a bit more than a lager or a commercially brewed beer. But that being said, we're always super conscious about that. We always want to make sure that our beer is approachable and people can actually afford it and try it because they want to try it, not because they just buy it on a price point.
This is now me coming with my own personal opinion, but I find it's a double-edged sword because on the one hand, you want to appeal to the market. You want to get across this new style, this IPA, to this South African lager drinker. You want it to be accessible to him, and you want it to come in at a relatively lower price points, and so they can drink it. And you want to sell the beer, and you don't want your retail outlets to sell it at a ridiculous price. That's on the one side. On the other side, you want to make a goddamn good IPA. You want to make an IPA that's hoppy, that punches you in the mouth with hops, that has a high alcohol content, that's true to its style. But then you're gonna use, as you say, up to 10 types of hops. Your alcohol's gonna go up. The higher your alcohol goes up, the more excise tax you pay to the government. So it becomes a very expensive operation. So you almost need to find a balance.
It's just like balancing hop bitterness and malt sweetness. I guess it's the same with the business side of things. You always have to balance it to make sure that whoever's touching the beer and selling the beer and drinking the beer are all getting out of it what they need to without going to extremes with the price.
It's and that's the one thing that I enjoyed when I was working at Jack Black, in that we communicated this kind of message and this education across to the retailers, and saying that you can't just put on any markup on an IPA, because if you put on a regular markup on an IPA, you're going to be selling a bottle in the restaurant anything from 60 Rand upwards, and you're just going to struggle to sell that. So it's almost, we need to continue having that kind of cooperation from the retailers, and that they should know that they need to give a little bit of leeway and help the market grow, and help that IPA market grow. I
think we're fortunate that some of the brewers who have a bit of more distribution reach in South Africa, and specifically in the Western Cape, who all produce a year-round IPA of good quality, that are our mates from Darling and Woodstock and Devil's Peak and all of those guys. They're all conscious and aware of the same things we are, so they're also fighting the same fight, which makes it good. And we don't want people to buy Skillers and Co's because it's 5 Rand or 10 Rand less expensive than another product. You should buy it because you really enjoy it, not just on price point. And also, again, the price shouldn't be out of reach of someone who wants to explore and who wants to try something different.
Yeah, we could debate this for a long time. It's almost at you're at an advantage if you're a really small brewing company and you want to make that intense IPA. I'm not saying you can't if you're a big brewery, but you got a lot less to lose in terms of wastage. Anyway, I'm rambling.
Yeah, I mean it's a double-edged sword, balancing act, catch-22, all of those cliches.
We like cliches.
At least we're super fortunate that we have loads of really, really good local IPAs being brewed, and which you can get at a super affordable price at most liquor stores, and that's fantastic. I mean, we're very lucky.
Yeah, I think we were chatting earlier, on IPAs and having certain days, in the market, in our little community, in our craft beer community. We've got an IPA day, and I was chatting to Jonas while we're off air about having other sorts of days. I'm trying to think if we've got a lager day. I know
lager day is every day.
Lager day is every day. But the reason we're talking about this, we're talking about sour beers and whether they're going to have an impact on the South African markets. While we're off air, we were chatting about, in Russia there were so many different sour beers, and you walk into a bar and that's just that's the only option for someone who doesn't particularly like beers, i.e. my wife. She's a wine drinker. There wasn't any wine for her to drink, so she would drink a sour beer. Frans, I know you said your wife is also inclined to have a sour beer, which is awesome, which I think we need to push that in South Africa. So I'm really hoping that we can get I'm pretty sure there is a sour day. If
there isn't, we should start one.
In the American standards. We back when I was on the Southeasters committee, I know that we were pushing for the South African Beer Day. And it was actually Lucy who actually put the final stapler in and put the stamp on it and said, cool, this is the date that we're going to have South African Beer Day. Correct me if I'm right, it's the first Saturday in February.
Yeah.
So maybe we should start looking at a sour beer week, because there's the pumpkin week that happens in October from America, where you get pumpkin beers. Jonas, are we going to get some pumpkin beers in October?
No, at the moment it's nothing planned. I mean, yeah, maybe next year or the
Yeah,
following
maybe
year,
next year or the following year. Yeah. No, but I think we're onto something. I think we should get some of the many listeners who listen out there to say yay or nay for sour beers. But I think we're going to get we're going to get more sour beers entering the markets. Yeah, exciting also to see what our friends at Devil's Peak are doing, building more sour beers, coming up with different recipes. So yeah, I'd like to see more sour beers. Not so much pumpkin beers. Don't worry, Jonas. You can skip the pumpkin beers. I'm not a big fan of that. I think we've got one more beer. And while we're looking at it, I'm very excited. Jonas? What beer is this?
Okay, this is our limited release fresh hopped IPA. Okay, I mean, as you can see on the label,
Beautiful label.
yeah, it's a African green. Okay, and what we did, the special for this beer is that we picked fresh hopped. Okay, in George. We drove all the way up to George, okay, picked the fresh hops, brought it back to the brewery, and start with brewing with it, okay. Main hops for this is...
So you cut the hops off the vine.
Yes.
Maybe not yourself, but you cut these hops.
No, we did
Really?
this
Did you?
completely
Okay, so you
ourselves,
cut
yeah.
the hops off the vine yourself in George, you race back to Cape Town, and you put it into the beer. What part of the process did you put it in?
We did this in 2 stages, okay. First stage was doing the lautering, okay. We throw wet hop cones in, okay, to start already with giving you like a slightly bitterness. The next stage was then in the wet kettle, okay, because the main reason we have to sterilize our hops, okay. It was not dried, it was completely red, okay. And we added around 45% of our whole bitterness just with wet hops, okay. If we start with tasting this product, okay, you can taste already like it gives you a really hard bitterness, which comes from the wet hops, okay. And if you go up like till 50% will be the borderline, okay, because otherwise it's just getting too bitter and you don't get any fruity flavor out of it, okay, no hop aroma. And
So just to interject there, the hops that we would usually use or dry hops, they're dried to, correct me if I'm wrong, about 4% moisture content or somewhere around there, but yeah, the hops that we use when we make beer, it's all pellets and it's all being compressed and dried.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, our hops had like a moisture content of 80% roughly, okay. If you pick it just from the field, it will be around 80% moisture in it.
And the reason you rush back to Cape Town is because it's a fruit, it's a live plant, and if it's left out too long, it gets icky, or what's the word? It rots like a fruit.
Exactly, yeah.
So you need to get it back into the boil, or you either need to dry it, or you need to put it into your beer.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, we drove back as fast as we can.
Within the speed limit, of course.
Yeah, I mean, as we arrived, okay, we actually just started with brewing, okay, and this is important that we keep it as fresh as we can, okay. Otherwise, you're getting it start with rotting, okay, and this is definitely something what you not want, and Okay, this was also like a little bit risky, okay, because it's still a long way to drive, okay, from George to Cape Town. And but we managed this really well. We had a good air circulation through our hop boxes, okay, which means it kept it fresh for the whole time. And
So this was, when did this first come out? This was, I mean, I know that
April.
harvesting is in April, hey?
No,
Was
the
it
harvest.
March?
So harvest was a bit earlier.
Yeah, the harvest is like, okay, it depends how the weather is, but around February, okay.
Okay.
And we brewed this in
March.
end of February. Yeah. And we released this on the
In April, yeah.
Yeah, 1st of April. Okay,
And it's got a picture of an African queen on there because the hop is called
exactly.
Yeah.
African Queen.
But I think we must just put a little disclaimer out that this is a special bottle that Jonas kept in his office, and only certain people can still get their hands on the fresh hop. It's not a beer that's still widely available. If you find a bottle, you're lucky. And also, it's called fresh hop because we want people to drink it as fresh as possible. So it's
And I suppose you've already put the disclaimer out there. It is a limited release. It's a one.
You can't even buy it at the brewery. Yeah.
Which I know that Jack Black has been planning that for a while, where they start doing limited releases and you create that kind of environment which is so popular in Europe. Sorry, not in Europe. Yeah, maybe in Europe, but in America, where you get fans and beer lovers queuing outside the brewery for a limited release.
Well,
Pliny the Elder, which is
Russian River Brewing Company, yeah.
which is, I mean, it's arguably the godfather of IPAs and the pinnacle of what an IPA should be. Pliny the Elder. So you would only be allowed to buy 12 bottles from the brewery, and I mean, they make one batch a year or something like that.
Something crazy. Yeah, people line up for days and camp outside the brewery.
Imagine people coming down to Deep River and camping.
Oh, we'll set up a little campsite. Well, good news is that even though the fresh shop is our previous limited release project, we are working as we speak on a new beer. It's going to be quite high in alcohol. It's going to be a style that we've, as a company, never brewed before.
Are you allowed to say much? What can you give us a little hint?
We can say it's based on a quite a classic European style, but we're gonna put our South African spin on it, and like everything else.
That's awesome. The fact that you have got something planned, you've announced it on hashtag Beer Time.
Yeah.
I'm now
You're the first person to hear about it outside of our boardroom.
Guys, it's just us. It's just us three.
Yeah, no, it's something exciting that we're working on, but it's still in the planning phases, and we're trying to see if we can source all the raw materials that we want to use.
Very excited.
So yeah,
if you want professional tasting opinion and quality control, you know who to come to. But I've spoken way too much. Jonas, please do us the honor and open this. Oh,
it's beautiful.
You know,
if I can interject while Jonas is pouring us some beers.
While he's pouring, this is a great time to tell us about some new social media stuff that Jack Black's got going on.
Yeah, so we partnered up with Coleman. Everybody knows Coleman, I guess, with the cooler boxes and some camping gear that you can find. And
sure.
I guess everybody that has a cooler box has pretty much got a Coleman in South Africa.
I think so, yeah.
So we partnered up with them where we're doing a photo competition using the hashtag BeerOutbound, which we want to encourage people to take your beer out on your journeys and your experiences. You know, Jonas and I have shared quite a few beers on top of Chapman's Peak where we like to go hike. But that's the kind of thing that we want to encourage people to do. You know, beer is not just something that you drink while you watch the rugby or having a braai. It's part of your experience and part of your, for lack of a better word, your journey. You know, you go somewhere and the most best feeling you can have is if you accomplish something. You arrive at your campsite that you drove 6 hours, you set up your tent and the campfire's just going, and what's the first thing you want to do is like, I'm going to sit, I'm going to crack open a beer and share it with my friends, and that's kind of the experience and the feeling that we want to generate with this campaign. And the awesome thing about it is you could win a steel belt cooler from Coleman, which can keep ice cold for like 3 days.
Okay.
We tried it and it actually works. It's
You've got
crazy.
my attention, yes.
Yeah, and we're going to fill that little sucker up with about 2 cases, maybe a little bit more of our beers.
Okay.
The prize is worth
now we're talking.
The prize is worth about $4,000 in total. So all you need to do is take some photos of you enjoying your beer outside and the outdoor lifestyle that you know most of Cape Townians and South Africans enjoy. We're fortunate to live in a country where we've got so much outdoor activities and beautiful weather.
Give me an example. So you guys said Table Mountain, maybe campfire?
Campfire for sure. Even your backyard. If you're having a braai with your friends and you're out in your backyard under the trees, just having a good time.
It's more of a lifestyle image.
It's the lifestyle, and
doesn't have to be a close up of the beer.
No, nothing like that. It doesn't need to even, I guess, show the beer. It's more, Jack Black as a company, I think we like to be part of communities and part of people's experiences. So there's a lot of people who just choose our beer because that's just their brand loyal, and we want them to show us, the behind the scenes look of how they experience our beers. It's always interesting for us to see that because we have our own ideas of what we do, and it's cool for people to share it. And we've had some great responses and some great photos. We're going to have a photo exhibition at the brewery.
I heard you're going to have you're going to print the pictures up.
We're going to print the photos up. The deadline to submit your entries with using the hashtag BeerOutbound is 21st September, and on the 29th of September we're going to...
Okay, so we've got
a bit of time.
We've got a month.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So you can get out, plan your shoot if you're going for a hiking trip or a camping trip or planning your braai when the sun's out. It'll be cool to see. And
that's all on Instagram, or can you go to other...
You can Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you can. If you can just tag us, Jack Black Beer, and use that hashtag, we'll be able to pick it up. Or if you're not on social media, but you're still, living the outdoor lifestyle, you can email it to us at info@Jack Black Beer. We just want to see people experiencing our products and how they enjoy it outside of...
Are previous employees allowed to enter?
Everybody is allowed to enter.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, we're partnering with Coleman, so they'll be the judge of the photo.
Dusting off the old lens, getting the old camera out.
That's it for the show, guys. Yep, like I said, it ends kind of abruptly, but we were pretty much done with the show. I will find out what happened with the rest of the footage so that kind of thing doesn't happen again. Guys, I really appreciate you listening. Please go follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I will see you guys at the next episode. Thank you for listening. Ciao, ciao.